So the Gifted project is a light and sculptural installation that I'm building here at the Anvil in Sadlergate in Derby, which is where my studio is based in the East Midlands. I've been making images of horses for as long as I can remember. My granny used to tell me stories about fairy horses whisking people away into the underworld, and I think that's how I came to associate horses with storytelling and with transitions. When I was about 10, I spent a lot of time sitting with the horses that were tethered in the nearby waste ground. Looking back on that time, I think that's when I started to make these autobiographical pieces, which turned out to be carousel horses, which I think was partly influenced by the fact that I used to go and visit my aunt in Brighton at the time, so there was a whole thing of escape. It also seemed that there was some kind of poetic, nostalgic significance in the ups and downs of the carousel horse, mirroring the ups and downs of life. So I used photographic imagery and text and as water slide transfers on the surface of the pieces, and people seemed to respond completely differently to that, and it made them, I think it was evocative really of things that were happening in their life at the time. And so that's really how I decided to scale the work up and try to make pieces that were going to involve more of public participation. And I was fortunate enough to receive Arts Council funding to develop that. So that's how the Gifted project started out, really. The piece itself is a sculptural installation, and it uses light projections. The idea for that was to make it participative and to encourage a dialogue, and we did that by touring the piece and also having open days here in the studio in Derby in the East Midlands. And people would come in and we'd encourage them to write a snippet of a life experience, and sometimes we asked them to write something about a person or a place that they loved. And so we gathered together all of these postcards that had snippets of people's lives, and it was really all sorts of memories from all walks of life and people of all ages. We also had drop-in sessions where people could fill in a horse that we then projected live onto the sculpture. So in that way, a lot of kids really enjoyed that, and a lot of adults enjoyed it too, actually. But a lot of the kids, we took photographs of them with the horse, so really they became part of the installation. And we used social media for that a lot as well, and uploaded the images back onto Facebook, so that the kids then had a drawing they could take away. But they also had the image in a digital way on Facebook, so they could show their friends an image of themselves being part of the installation. So that was really great. I thought it was funny to kind of be subverting the idea of a static horse, and you see so many of them with historical VIPs on them. But what I've done is to use the image of the horse escaping that, and really being able to convey and being a vehicle really for the ideas and thoughts of the man in the street, and much more of an everyday life thing. So the actual 3D piece, in a way you could say, represents the body, with that three-dimensionality and the real tangible concrete existence of it. And then that's balanced through the digital media, almost representing the mind, and inner life and inner thought, and that sort of thing of it having an immediacy to it and a passing kind of quality to it. And the light mapping also brings a contemporary modernity to the piece, that balances out well with a much more traditional media of making sculptures of horses, which obviously is something I've been doing for a long time. So this actually brings more of a cutting edge appeal, I think, to the piece, contrasting those two elements. It's an honour to be showing the work in Liverpool. It's a place with a long and noble social history, and also a really vibrant icon of British society and British culture. And also as a port, it's a place with a lot of movement. So I thought that would really bring some fresh ideas to the installation. I've designed the piece to be light so that it's transportable enough to go on tour, but I'd also like to see the piece permanently sited, and I was recently selected for Hove Plinth.
A short list of 10 designs for a new sculpture that's going up on Hove seafront has gone on display.
Where Grand Avenue meets the sea, this is the exact spot where Hove Plinth is set to be. Any of these designs could make the final 3, but even one of those will not be here permanently.
Out of those 10, I'm pleased to say that my piece received 41% of the vote, so that's high praise from the general public as it was put to public vote, and so it shows how accessible the piece is, and that's really given me confidence to develop it as a permanent sculpture. If I was to make the sculpture permanent, I would use water slide transfers to decorate the surface of the piece, with the text and the photographs and the imagery that we've collected from our audiences when the piece has been on tour. I'm not going to lie, it's not been easy to get people to confess their innermost feelings and thoughts on a postcard, but now that the installation's up and running, I do think that helps people to find it less intimidating, and I do think it's inspired people to join in and to have their thoughts seen as part of the whole.
When I was young, summers lasted for ages. Rain was warm and the breeze cool when I was young.
It's also surprised me how many people thought of a use for the work and didn't actually see it as a lofty, inaccessible art piece, but I think people related to it more personally as well. It's this universal truth that connects us all together, this kind of rising and falling, and that's the motion of the carousel.